The famine of 1866 or anka durbhikshya 1866 ମସିହାର ଅଙ୍କ ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ। ପ୍ରାକୃତିକ ବିପର୍ଯ୍ୟୟ ସବୁବେଳେ ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ମେରୁଦଣ୍ଡ ଭାଙ୍ଗି ଦେଇଥାଏ। ପ୍ରତିବର୍ଷ କିଛି ନା କିଛି ସାଇକ୍ଲୋନ ହଉ କିମ୍ବା ବାତ୍ୟା ବନ୍ୟା ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ ଦେଖାଯାଇଥାଏ। ତ ସେଇଭଳି ଏକ ଦେଖାଯାଇଥିଲା 1866 ମସିହାରେ, ଯାହାକୁ ଅଙ୍କା ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ କୁହାଯାଉଥିଲା। ତ ସେ ବିଷୟରେ ଆଜି ଆମେ ପଢିବା। Natural calamities such as drought, flood, epidemics and cyclones have occurred repeatedly throughout Odisha's history. Their frequent visits in the 19th century were the primary factor that broke the backbone of the Odia people. Odisha's people have been afflicted by numerous natural disasters. The most famous of them all was the famine of 1866. It also known as anka durbhikshya. It had wreaked havoc on the socio-economic. ଏହି ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷଟି ସୋସିଆଲ ସାମାଜିକ ଓ ଅର୍ଥନୈତିକ କ୍ଷେତ୍ରରେ ଏକ ଶକ୍ତ ଧକ୍କା ସଦୃଶ ଥିଲା, ଯାହା ଓଡ଼ିଶାର ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ମେରୁଦଣ୍ଡ ଭାଙ୍ଗି ଦେଇଥିଲା। This disaster was precipitated by the carelessness of the British administration in charge of Odisha division. ସେହି ସମୟରେ ଯେଉଁମାନେ ଓଡ଼ିଶାକୁ ଶାସନ କରୁଥିଲେ ଇଂରେଜ ସରକାର, ସେମାନଙ୍କର କେୟାରଲେସନେସ୍ ଯୋଗୁଁ ଏହି ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ ଘଟିଥିଲା। This severe famine is also known as anka durbhikshya because it occurred during the Gajapati Divyasingha Deva's 9th regnal year. ଏହାକୁ anka ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ କୁହାଯାଏ କାରଣ ଗଜପତି ଦିବ୍ୟସିଂହ ଦେବଙ୍କର ଏହା ନବମ ବର୍ଷରେ, ନବମ ଅଙ୍କରେ ଏହା ଘଟିଥିଲା। ତ କଣ କଣ କାରଣ ସବୁ ଦାୟୀ 1866 ମସିହାର anka ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ ପାଇଁ? The cessation of rainfall, ବର୍ଷାର କମ। The drought of 1865 may have contributed to the famine of 1866. In 1865, the monsoon season began early, and there was no rainfall between October and November. The lands dried off, and crops were completely destroyed as a result of the scorching sun. In that year, cultivators harvested roughly 1/3 of the total annual produce. In that year, the peasants were unable to preserve food. Severe food grain scarcity, ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟରେ ଅଭାବ ଦେଖାଗଲା। Another factor contributing to the outbreak of 1856 famine was an alarming shortage of food grains caused by casual exports of food grain. ସେତେବେଳେ ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ସରକାର ଓଡ଼ିଶାରୁ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ରପ୍ତାନି କରିଥିଲେ, କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମଦାନୀ ଉପରେ କୌଣସି ଦୃଷ୍ଟି ଦେଇନଥିଲେ। ଏହା ଅନ୍ୟତମ କାରଣ 1866 ମସିହାର anka ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ ପାଇଁ। Odisha exported massive amount of rice. According to records from the 6 years preceding 1866, Odisha exported an average ହାରାହାରି 20,000 ଟନ୍ ପ୍ରତି ବର୍ଷ ଏକ୍ସପୋର୍ଟ ହେଉଥିଲା ଓଡ଼ିଶାରୁ, ଅନ୍ୟ ଆଡ଼େ ରପ୍ତାନି ହେଉଥିଲା। ଦ ୱେଲ୍ଦି ତେଲିଙ୍ଗା କିମୁଟିଜ୍ ଏକ କମ୍ୟୁନିଟି, ଏକ ସମ୍ପ୍ରଦାୟ ଯାହାକୁ କିମୁଟିଜ୍ କୁହାଯାଉଥିଲା, ଯେଉଁମାନେ କି ମଦ୍ରାସ ପ୍ରେସିଡେନ୍ସିରେ ରହୁଥିଲେ, ସେମାନେ 33,000 ଟନ୍ ଧାନ ଓଡ଼ିଶାରୁ ଇମ୍ପୋର୍ଟ କରିଥିଲେ। ଏଣ୍ଡ ଏହି ଧାନ ଗୁଡ଼ିକୁ ସେମାନେ ଫ୍ରେଞ୍ଚର ଗୋଟିଏ କମ୍ପାନୀ ମେସର୍ସ ରବର୍ଟ ଏଣ୍ଡ ଚେରିୟଲ କୋ, ଏହି କମ୍ପାନୀକୁ ସେମାନେ ବିକ୍ରି କରିଦେଇଥିଲେ ଲାଭ ପାଇବା ପାଇଁ। This export consumed the entire surplus of 1864. When the rains abruptly ceased in 1865, ଯେତେବେଳେ ବର୍ଷାର ପରିମାଣ କମ ହେଲା, the British government did not import food grains. Third cause of famine, the people's unfavorable economic situation. Agriculture was Odisha's primary occupation. The East India Company's 30-year revenue settlement in Odisha was scheduled to expire in 1866. Recognizing the potential for the increased revenue, the population significantly reduced the area under cultivation from 1864. ब्रिटिश सरकार का 30 वर्षर राजस्व सिस्टम जार जार जहा सरी जाउथला 1866 रे ता समाप्त हो जाउथला एही रेवेन्यू सिस्टम। तो यह जानी ओडिसा रे लोक माने 1864 मसिया ठारू सेमानकर जमीर परिमाण को कमे दिथिले कारण कम टैक्स देवा को पड़ियो बोली से जमीन गुडी को कमे दिथिले। This principle was adopted in order to demonstrate less possession of land at the time of settlement, thereby imposing a lower revenue burden on landowners. The British government had conducted extensive research into these people's mind. As a result, it purposefully delayed. सेमाने इंग्रेज सरकार आगरू जानी पारथिले चासी मानकर अवस्था को, तेणु सेमाने जानी सुनी यही 30 वर्ष रेवेन्यू सिस्टम को विलंब करथिले। The people of Odisha were on our तो डेरी करिवार चक्रांत को ओडिसा रो लोक माने जानि पार नथिले। With the decline in cultivable land beginning in 1864, a decline in production was unavoidable. जब सेमाने 1864 मसिया रो ओडिसा रो लोक माने सेमानकर जमीर परिमाण को चाष करिवा जमीर परिमाण को कमे दिथिले। तो जमीर परिमाण कमे दिथिले ताहा कम शस्य उत्पादन हेइथिला। तो एही भलिया परिस्थिति जगु इकोनॉमिक कंडीशन ऑफ Odisha's people were deteriorating. Fourth cause, in Odisha no effort is made to improve agriculture. On the other hand, the East India Company paid little attention to agricultural development in Odisha following its occupation of the land. The British did not begin irrigation in Odisha. कौन सी जलसेचन सुविधा मध्य जगै नथिले इंग्रेज माने 1866 मसिया पर्यंत। Farmers on the land were completely reliant on the monsoon for cultivation. Even today, most of the Odisha farmers are depend upon monsoon rain. In September 1865, 1865 मसिया रे वर्षार परिमाण कमी गला, and by the end of October, rice became scarce and expensive. खाद्य शस्य गुडी को आम पूर्व देखिथिले किमुटी जे माने कि मद्रास प्रेसिडेंसी रे रहथिले कि संप्रदाय धनी संप्रदाय से माने धान गुडी को स्टॉक करी रखी से माने फ्रेंच कंपनी को बिकि दिथिले। तो तेनु एही एथि जगु खाद्य शस्य रे अभाव देखा गला। In exacerbated not only the peasants' plight but also that the zamindars who found it difficult to collect revenue on time. जमींदार माने मध्य चासी मानक ठारू ठीक समय खजना पाई नथिले। Musprat, the collector of Balasore, forwarded a petition from the local zamindars on 26th October 1865. बालेश्वर कलेक्टर लोकल जमींदार मानक ठारू गोटे पिटिशन पाइथिले। से माने से पिटिशन रे कहिथिले जे खाद्य शस्यर अभाव और खाद्य शस्यर अभाव जगु वर्षार परिमाण कम जगु खाद्य शस्यर उत्पादन कम हे गला। सेति पई चासी माने ठीक समय से मानकर खजना दे पारि नथिले, किंतु ब्रिटिश अथॉरिटी सुनि नथिला। Then another cause, inadequate communication. Another factor contributing to the famine was a lack of communication facilities. Between Odisha and Kolkata, there was no concrete road. Additionally, it was crossed by a number of unbridged rivers, which discouraged Odisha's traders from trading with Kolkata. Odisha was inaccessible during the rainy season. At the time, even if the government desired to import food grains from Kolkata, the attempt was doomed to failure due to monsoon. If there had been effective communication between Odisha and Kolkata, the government could easily have brought food grains from Kolkata to meet the demand of the Odisha people during the famine. Absence of prompt action by government apparatus. सरकारंकर त्वरित उपकरण गुड़िकर अभाव थिला। ସେମାନଙ୍କର ରିଲିଫ ହଉ କିମ୍ବା କୌଣସି ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟର ହଠାତ୍ ଭାବରେ ସେମାନେ କିଛି ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟର କିଛି ବି ସାହାଯ୍ୟ ମିଳିପାରିନଥିଲା। An action on the part of the government machinery contributed significantly to the deterioration of the situation. Indeed, there was no connection between ruler and populace. ଶାସକ ଓ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ସମ୍ପର୍କ ଠିକ ନଥିଲା, ସେମାନଙ୍କ ମଧ୍ୟରେ ଯୋଗାଯୋଗ ହେଇପାରୁନଥିଲା। English officers had not paid a visit to the isolated villages. As a result, they were ignorant of the people's plight. They would have been aware of the people's suffering had they visited the villages on a regular basis. Even T.E. Revensa, the then commissioner of Odisha, was unaware of the people's plight. ସେମାନେ ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ସମସ୍ୟାକୁ ବୁଝି ପାରୁନଥିଲେ, ଯାଇ ପାରୁନଥିଲେ, ସେମାନଙ୍କ ସହିତ ଦେଖା ମଧ୍ୟ କରୁନଥିଲେ। ତ ଏହା ଏକ ଅନ୍ୟତମ କାରଣ ଥିଲା 1866 ମସିହାର ନଙ୍କ ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷ ପାଇଁ। Market induced scarcity of food grains. When rice merchants bundled together and hoarded rice, black marketing କରିଦେଇଥିଲେ merchants ମାନେ। During the famine ସମୟରେ ବ୍ୟବସାୟୀ ମାନେ ବ୍ଲାକ୍ ମାର୍କେଟ କଳା ବଜାରୀ କରିଦେଇଥିଲେ, ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ଷ୍ଟକ୍ କରିକି ରଖିଦେଇଥିଲେ। The British government was powerless to control the artificial scarcity. ଏହାକୁ ବ୍ରିଟିଶ ଗଭର୍ଣ୍ଣମେଣ୍ଟ ମଧ୍ୟ ନିୟନ୍ତ୍ରଣ କରିପାରିନଥିଲା। In the market, as a result, the price of rice continued to rise. ଏହି ବ୍ଲାକ୍ ମାର୍କେଟିଂ ଯୋଗୁଁ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟର ଦରଦାମ ବଢ଼ିବା ପାଇଁ ଲାଗିଲା। ତ economic situation is not good at that time, so the people of Odisha cannot purchase food grains. This led the severe impact. The government would have regulated commerce and trade by prosecuting violators and establishing a responsible price for rice and other essential goods. Thus merchants increased the misery of the common people by monopolizing the sale of rice at a high price. Media void. At that time there was no appropriate media outlets, print or electronics. Electronics की तो बात छोड़ो, print भी कुछ कुछ पत्र पत्रिका କିଛି ବି ଛାପା ଯାଉନଥିଲା, ତେଣୁ ସେମାନେ ଲୋକମାନେ କିଛି ବି ଜାଣିପାରୁନଥିଲେ। ଟୁ ପବ୍ଲିସାଇଜ ଦ ଫେମାଇନ୍, ଏହି ଦୁର୍ଭିକ୍ଷର ଲୋକମାନଙ୍କର ସମସ୍ୟାକୁ ଲୋକଲୋଚନକୁ ଆଣିବା ପାଇଁ କୌଣସି ବି ପତ୍ର ପତ୍ରିକା ସେହି ସମୟରେ ଉପଲବ୍ଧ ହେଉନଥିଲା। No local daily was being published that would have brought the people's pitiful plight to the government's attention. Though G.N. Barlow, police collector, ପୁରୀରେ ସେତେବେଳେ କଲେକ୍ଟର ଥିଲେ G.N. Barlow, Ramakant Chatterjee, the deputy collector, and several police officers had drawn the government's attention to the famine, and the collector of Balasore had hinted at the famine to the commissioner. ସେତେବେଳେ କମିଶନର ଥିଲେ T.E. Revensa. These three references were ignored. Apart from the aforementioned factors, the lack of education among the people of Odisha and the responsibility of T.E. Revensa contributed significantly to the outbreak of the famine of 1866. Had Revensa taken decisive action, Odisha would not have fallen victim to this heinous famine. The aforementioned factors contributed significantly to the outbreak of the famine, which was devastating in scope. The outbreak of the 1866 famine. The famine began in October 1865. ଯେତେବେଳେ ବର୍ଷାର ପରିମାଣ କମି ଯାଇଥିଲା, ସେତେବେଳେ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହୋଇଯାଇଥିଲା କୌଣସି ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟ ଚାଷ ହୋଇଥିବା ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟ ଉତ୍ପାଦନ ହୋଇପାରିଲା ନାହିଁ। ଅକ୍ଟୋବର 1865 ଠାରୁ ବର୍ଷାର ପରିମାଣ କମିଗଲା, ସେତେବେଳେ ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟର ଅଭାବ ଦେଖାଗଲା। The Puri collector had informed T.E. Revensa. ସେତେବେଳେ ପୁରୀର କଲେକ୍ଟର ଯିଏ ଥିଲେ ସେ T.E. Revensa କମିଶନରକୁ ଜଣାଇଥିଲେ ଏହି ସିଚୁଏସନ୍, ଏହି ଖାଦ୍ୟ ଶସ୍ୟର ଅଭାବକୁ ଦର୍ଶାଇଥିଲେ, କିନ୍ତୁ T.E. Revensa ଶୁଣିନଥିଲେ। Famine preliminary reports. The famine is generally believed to have begun in October 1865. Revensa was unconcerned by Barlow's Barlow's जी पूरी कलेक्टर थे Barlow's information about the starvation deaths at Parikud and Malud. Barlow proposed that public works be undertaken by paying laborers in food grains. ସେତେବେଳେ ଯେ ପୁରୀର କଲେକ୍ଟର ଥିଲେ ସେ କହୁଥିଲେ କି ପବ୍ଲିକ କନଷ୍ଟ୍ରକ୍ସନ ବନ୍ଧ ଖୋଳା କି ଯେକୌଣସି କାମ ହେଉଥିଲା ସେ କାମ ଗୁଡ଼ିକର ପାଉଣା ଟଙ୍କା ଆକାରରେ ନ ଦେଇ ଖାଦ୍ୟଶସ୍ୟ ଆକାରରେ ଦିଆଯାଉ ବୋଲି ସେ କହୁଥିଲେ କିଛି କାର୍ଯ୍ୟ କରୁଥିଲେ କିନ୍ତୁ ଖାଦ୍ୟଶସ୍ୟର ଅଭାବ ଥିଲା ମାର୍କେଟରେ The Bengal government approved funding for the roads construction but refused to compensate laborers in terms of food grains. Now food grains have been imported from other countries. Revensa proposed the formation of relief committees in early December 1865 and made lengthy tours of the tributary Mohol. When Revensa returned from his tour on 31st January 1866, he sent an urgent telegram to the Calcutta government pleading with them to provide food grains rather than wages to the belaguered people of Odisha. However, the Bengal authorities ignored it. Sir Cecil Beardon's visit of Cuttack. Sir Cecil Beardon, the Lieutenant Governor of Bengal, paid a visit to Cuttack from 13 to 19 February 1866. Neither he nor the government servants projected the true picture of the famine in front of him out of fear. He advised the Rajas and local Zamindars in his speech to address the people's grievances by providing relief. The situation deteriorated further when by the end of March, jails were overcrowded with criminals who committed crimes solely to obtain food inside. The commissioner realized the gravity of the situation fully when he was trampled to death in March 1866 at Balasore by a hungry mob on his return journey from Mayurbhanj. Then he wrote to the Board of Revenue, but his letter went unanswered. Finally, in May, after Revensa insisted on providing rations to the troops at Cuttack to feed prisoners and starving people, the board authorized the import of rice. The famine's course, when the government decided to import rice and almost sanctioned 25 lakh for the purpose in the final week of June. Monsoon had already begun. Importing food was practically impossible due to a lack of transportation and communication. Even after rice arrived in Cuttack in September, Odisha was hit by a devastating flood in September. Despite the fact that cooked food was distributed in 88 centers, the death toll was high due to epidemics such as cholera. Parimhanacharya captured the pitiable state of the famine of 1866 succinctly when he wrote, "The towns were filled with the sorrowful shrieks of thousands of men, women and children reduced to mere skeletons. The crematory grounds near towns and villages were densely packed with countless dead bodies, on which vultures and jackals feasted to their hearts." Initiatives taken by government apparatus. Considering the gravity of the situation, the government apparatus was geared up to deal with it from July to October 1866. The Public Works Department (PWD) took various steps in which grains were used as compensation. Additionally, the East India Irrigation Company implemented Food for Work program. Famine Relief Fund was established by the government. Numerous relief committees were formed under the direct supervision of a special commissioner to oversee relief efforts and sanitation conditions in the district of Puri, Cuttack and Baleshwar. The famine is over. Additionally, the government collected public donations from hattas, marketplaces, zamindars and wealthy individuals and distributed them to the poor and destitute. Cash relief was provided for thatch houses and their repair. Each orphan boy and girl received 3 rupees per month. each orphan boys and girls received 3 rupees per month. 20 rupees were given for each orphan girl's marriage. The public was provided with free medical care and medication. Christian missionaries frequently assisted the poor and destitute. The zamindars were granted revenue abatement on the condition that they would remit revenue for the Rayat. In retrospect, an additional allowances was granted to government employees to help them cope with the high cost of living. By implementing these measures, the government was able to assist the famine-stricken people of Odisha. The famine was declared over in December 1867. By that time, the people of Odisha had received adequate relief. The farmers had been provided with sufficient seeds and food grains by the zamindars. Additionally, the government provided them with the same at a discounted rate. The Inquiry Commission's report on the 1866 famine. In December 1866, on the order of the Secretary of State for India, an Inquiry Commission was established to ascertain the causes, circumstances, and scope of the famine. It was comprised of 3 members: President George Campbell, W. E. Morton, and S. L. Dampier. The Odisha Famine Commission submitted its report on 6 April 1867. According to the members of this commission, in addition to unavoidable circumstances, such a catastrophe was caused by administrative authorities' negligence and errors by certain individual officers. The famine's consequences. The Nanga famine had far-reaching consequences as follows. It exposed Odisha administrative machinery's failure to protect the people. According to the government estimates, the mortality rate was around 1 lakh, or nearly 1/3 of the province population. Chaos and confusion reigned throughout Odisha, and epidemics compounded the misery of the people. 1866 famine, a blessing in disguise. The 1866 famine was a blessing in disguise, as it ushered in a new era in Odisha's administration. The government's authoritative attitude and carelessness were relegated to the distant past. On the other hand, the government adopted a benevolent attitude and policies toward the Odisha people. The government of India formulated famine relief policies for the entire country on the recommendation of the Odisha Famine Commission. T. Revensa's benevolent measures following the famine. T. Revensa stimulated the government machinery for the promotion of education in Odisha. Following the famine, he established a number of vernacular schools in rural areas with an emphasis on the Odia language, converted the Cuttack Jilla School into Revensa College, was instrumental in the establishment of a medical school and training school in Cuttack in 1866 and 1869 respectively, as well as the construction and improvement of the embankment in Banki and Owl. However, the famine of 1866 proved to be a watershed movement in the modern Odisha's history. The final line to say. The 1866 famine was a watershed movement in modern Odisha's history. The people of Odisha had suffered greatly during this famine. It had wiped out 1/3 of the population. However, the famine aftermath was beneficial to the state. The British government provided numerous administrative and other facilities for the people's benefit. The 1866 famine compelled them to adopt benevolent and sympathetic policies toward the Odisha people.